Okay, lovely. We are ready to get started. So, hello and welcome for our last installment of fall semester. Very exciting for our last career toolkit talk. We are going to dive more into the wonderful world of STEM, so science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And we have got three wonderful women joining us tonight. So, what I would like to do is let's get started by having you ladies talk about yourselves. So let us know where you're located in this grand country, what you currently do, or what your role is. You don't have to say your company if you don't want to. If you do, great. And how you got to where you are. So, Miss Kimberly, if you'll get us started, start there.
Sure thing. Hi, everyone. My name is Kimberly Reyes Rush, and I'm an industrial engineer. I am about an hour outside of Orlando, Florida. And something most people don't know about industrial engineering is that you can find work in pretty much any industry when you're an industrial engineer. And you can learn most of what you need on the job. So it's really interesting and fun, and I'm looking forward to telling you more about it.
Hannah, Miss Marie.
Oh, you can go ahead.
Oh, sure. Hi, I'm Marie Stavish, and I work as a business automation and intelligence engineer for Univision Computers. I live in Montana. I used to be from the eastern half of Montana, which is the flat part of Montana, and now I live in the western part of the state, which is what you see usually Montana with all of the pine trees and mountainous streams and whatnot. And I was a teacher for 21 years. I taught 5 through 12 mathematics, and just recently, and about 3.5 years ago, started back into this field. I actually have a degree in computer science, but I'm now using it more directly than when I started.
All right, I'm Hannah. I'm in Birmingham, Alabama. I am a chemical engineer. I worked in pulp and paper manufacturing for 10 years. And then I quit when I had my daughter and got a master's in organizational psychology. And now I own my own consulting company. So I do individual leadership coaching, and I do corporate consulting for leadership development. So not exactly engineering, but I still get to work with engineering companies, which is fun.
Hey, that's awesome. So you ladies from a vast amount of different, it seems like engineering, a range of engineering degrees. How did you come to where you guys are currently as far as choosing this particular engineering position that you guys chose? Whoever wants to jump in.
I can start. So when I was in high school, that was way back when computers were a pretty new thing. Everyone didn't have one in their back pocket. Our high school actually shared two old Apple IIe computers with green monitors, and we each got them a quarter of the school year. And so we got those, and I learned how to code in BASIC and Pascal. And so I was like really interested in that, the problem solving aspect. So my teacher, who was also my math teacher, hooked me up with Montana Tech, which had a great small computer programming course, and that's where I went for my first degree.
Wow, okay.
Very cool. Well, I chose chemical engineering because my parents told me to just pick a major that I could make a lot of money at, to be honest with you. And they were right. Like it was definitely hard in college, but I did, you make a good salary coming out of school with an engineering degree, obviously. And then I chose my current career path because I worked in very heavily male-dominated manufacturing environments for the 10 years that I was in the, traditional workforce. And I struggled a lot with not having any kind of like female mentors or people to, be like, okay, can I make this happen with a 3-year-old? Like, what's going on? So I started my company to help kind of bridge that gap a little bit. So I started with just individual that's my 3-year-old running around upstairs if you can hear her. But
We can't. I
um
can't hear anything.
oh, okay. Started with just the individual coaching side and then moved on to corporate consulting. So now I get to help manufacturing companies with their female engineers, which is what I've always wanted to do. So
Amazing.
yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, so for me, it's funny. So I didn't have a program like Nerdy Girl Success to help me learn about all the different types of career paths available. So I really loved math when I was in high school.
Mm.
And in my mind, there were two options if you wanted to do something with math. You could become a math teacher or you could become an engineer. And I didn't know there's even more you can do. Just FYI, you can look it up. I have a friend who like went into something related to like forensics and like there's very interesting things, but I decided on engineering instead of teaching. And I wanted to go to the University of Miami because both of my parents went there and I'd been wanting to go. There was my dream school like my whole life. So I looked at their website and I looked at the different types of engineering that they had, and I decided that industrial looked the most interesting to me, and I picked it. And I ended up liking it, and I've stuck with it the whole time. And later on, I realized some things in my past that kind of maybe pointed me that way to begin with. So it wasn't just kind of like a random fluke. It's like, oh no, this actually is like a good career for me and it fits with the things I value. But yeah, no, honestly, it was kind of a process of elimination thing and it worked out.
Ah, amazing. Yay. Happy it worked out. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And that you went to the same college as your parents. That was super exciting that you kept it in the family as well. UNC Chapel Hill was a big school for our family growing up, and I went to UNC Chapel Hill.
Aw.
And that was extremely hard. I was like, I should have just started small town and then worked my way up. I just dove right in. So that's amazing. You kept it in the family. Very cool. I did hear you say, Hannah, that you love how wonderful it is that you get to help female engineers right now. And I would like to ask you ladies about you all being female engineers and the experience of being in a male dominated field. How have you navigated that? How has that been? Hannah, what do you see currently? And what do you tell women to gear them up for this industry, just so they understand what they're working towards or about to embark on?
Yeah, I mean, they're called male dominated industries for a reason. Like that's because when you enter them, a lot of times you will be one of the only few females in the industry. I think luckily I'm seeing a shift more towards like females being very supportive of each other versus competitive with one another. So that is like such a cultural thing for women in STEM that is really like moving the needle forward as far as getting to leadership positions. I think the main thing that most young engineers struggle with is just confidence, which is like, buzzword of the year, but like it's true that if you can find your voice in those situations where you're sometimes the only female in a room full of 15 men, if you can find your voice in that situation, you can find your voice in any situation. So it's really, getting to those tables and realizing that you worked just as hard as everybody else did, if not harder, to get there. So you deserve to use your voice in equal measure to them. And that's sometimes a process of just learning the skills that it takes to be able to use your voice. But, a lot of companies have resources to help you get like coaches or mentors or whatever it is. And that makes such a difference. I'm sure y'all have probably seen that in your careers as well.
Yeah, I would say in Montana, there are not a lot of resources like that. So this is really great that that you are providing that, Hannah. And
Yes.
I to piggyback off of what you say, like finding your voice is so important. I was the first female engineer at our company ever, and they have been in business for they're over 30 years now. So I think
Amazing.
it's like 35 years, 34, 35 years. And so the first female engineer, the first female team lead in the company. So finding that voice, and I find a lot of my meetings are just only male. Like we have one other female engineer on staff, and we had another one that did great, but she moved out of state. And so we've had some admin people that are female in our company, but yeah, pretty much every meeting I find myself in, I'm the only female, and there have been a few times where I've just really had to find my voice and be like, "Oh, no, like, this is my opinion and, in a very nice way, sort, like this is my opinion and I deserve to be heard and you deserve, you should hear me out." So,
Yeah, I would add to that. So I definitely agree with both of your points about confidence. I think that that's really key, and also earning people's respect. So if you're it's true, like there's often going to be more men than women wherever you're at if you go into a STEM field. For now, hopefully you can help change that. But if you do a great job and people start recognizing that you're a hard worker, you do good work, you're gonna earn their respect, and no one's gonna care if you're a woman or if you're a man. Like if they know that they can trust the work that you do, even in a technical field, if there's, more men than women, then you'll earn their respect, and it'll be easier to be confident and to have them trust you without you having to repeat yourself and state your position multiple times. Like if you may have heard that that's like a thing for women, is like, you have to like say whatever you're saying like a lot more than a man does in order to be listened to, or anyway, but the point is that like start building up that respect and confidence, and nobody will care if you're a woman or a man.
Yeah, true. There you go. I love that. That's right. And you do have to repeat yourself. I find that so often in anything that I do in this life. And I don't know if it's the accent or I just did not give a clear direction. But yes, repeating yourself and being confident when you say it the next time, just so they know. I'm going to say it one more time. Very important. That's right. Let me ask you guys, building your foundations when y'all got started, thinking back, in high school or at college, what would you say is very important entering into STEM field, STEM careers today, to kickstart your journey for these young women? Like, is it, diving right into an internship? Is it starting to find a mentor? Is it, looking at a college program and finding the perfect one for you? Like, where would you say, to point them in a direction? I'll let you start, Miss Marie.
um, I don't I don't know that I really had any one thing that pointed me in a direction, but those are definitely good ideas to find a mentor if you can, to find an internship. Maybe like your parents, like who do your parents know that, might be able to hook you up with somebody, or who do your teachers know that might be able to hook you up with someone that, in a field that interests you, and you might look at 10 different fields that are totally unrelated, or maybe they're related by your love of math or something like that, or your love of art. But just keep plugging away till you find that thing that interests you. If it doesn't interest you, I would say definitely, look somewhere else and find that thing that just like every day when you look at it, it's there and you really love, like, maybe it's hard, but like, Kimberly, I think mentioned, right, that you love math, and I love math too, but it wasn't always easy for me, but I persevered through it, and now, like I hated algebra when I took it in high school, but I taught math for 21 years, and it's just like I love to tutor. I tutor now even though I'm not tutoring, so just find that thing that you're interested in and pursue it no matter what.
Awesome.
Yeah, I was gonna say a couple of things. Like first, I went to Auburn and I like still partner with them with a lot of things. And a lot of the big engineering schools or big schools in general will have countless opportunities for you to get in front of employers, whether for like an internship or a co-op situation. and I co-opted for a total of like 3 full semesters and then got a job offer from that company. So then when I was entering my senior year, I already had a job offer. So then I could like play the market as far as do all of these interviews for different companies, and the pressure was completely off because I already had a company that I loved, and it really sets you up for success. And then you can also negotiate salaries early on because you're like, I've got this other job offer, y'all need to pay me at least this, so it just really sets you up for success. And also, like, companies nowadays, if they're looking at you with a bachelor's degree and no experience or somebody with experience, they're going to pick the person with experience every single time. So it's like vital, I think, to get an internship or a co-op, even if it's just 1 semester. And like Marie said, like using the people that and also like if you're in high school still trying to figure out what it is that you want to do, like take a little bit of pressure off of yourself to make the absolute perfect decision the first time. Like remember that you can change courses. Like even if it takes you an extra year or 2 years or 3 years to graduate, like just figure out the path that you want to go on, and realize that the decision you make right now doesn't have to be like in concrete and stone. Like you can change your mind later on. That's why I got my second degree, and I did something completely different. So
Love it.
Yeah, I would just add there's plenty of people like Marie and Hannah and me that are happy to talk to you about what we do and answer your questions. Like, even if like maybe there's people in your lives, like, Marie was mentioning, like, your parents' friends and things like that, like, or, through Nerdy Girl Success, like the other mentors that are listed on the page who are volunteers.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
there's, yeah. And so just like, it seems like, if you're kind of between a couple things, or you think you have an idea, like, oh, maybe I do want to be an industrial engineer, maybe I do want to be a chemical engineer, like, if you can actually talk to one and hear about, like, what's a day in the life like being, in that career field, it might help you decide some of those things, like Hannah was saying, like, like which path you want to go if you have multiple interests, and help you hone in on, like, maybe a smaller list of things that you might want to pursue an internship in or something like that.
mhm.
Yeah, I was just going to add the job shadow thing through Nerdy Girl Success. I think that would be amazing. Like 2 of my kids went through job shadow in high school, and my son had ended up being his career for a while, like a long time, and it's a long story, but yeah, that was what like set him up to be successful in that area.
Yeah.
Very cool.
That's awesome. We'll get to that at the very end, but I will definitely mention the programs that we have, and that being flash mentoring and job shadowing. So, Nerdy Girl Success is all about plugging in our wonderful young women that come through our programs into various, different careers or fields, or connected them to wonderful women like you guys on this call tonight. So we got the resources. We just need, courageous young women to take awesome first steps to use these resources. So, but I do want to also ask you, ladies, what makes you most excited about, your current role, or, your field, your industry? What aspect just gets you up, like you said, every day, Marie? Like it just makes you so happy, and keeps you going? Is it where, technology in the STEM field, or the future of STEM is bright and we're moving at a great speed? Or is it, I just love my current project, it's amazing, it just thrills me? What gets you guys going? What makes y'all most excited about what your current roles are and where it's going?
I can go first. For me, I really like helping people, and so that's what my career has been so far. I've used my industrial engineering degree to do a lot of automation and process improvement, and coding that simplifies the lives of the people I work with. And so that's that's where I feel really fulfilled, is knowing that when I complete this project, this person won't have to spend, 10 hours a week doing this really annoying manual job. Like they can just like click a button and it happens automatically or something like that. Like I
Mhm.
just love being able to deliver that finished product and have, experience like the thankfulness of my internal customers and have them really appreciate the difference that I made.
Oh, awesome.
That's so cool. I just learned something new. I didn't really know what industrial engineers did. And so it's like, oh, we do exactly the same thing, except for we have different titles and we probably do slightly different work. But that's basically what my job is too. And that's the part that I love about it is helping the people. I automate processes for businesses. It sounds like maybe you, Kimberly, are more like in a warehouse type situation, possibly, or
We help some people in the warehouse, but I'm in the supply chain department. So
okay,
I help a lot of people. I work remotely, and so I help a lot of other people like just with whatever like remote work they're doing. But yeah, we do have a
cool.
warehouse and we have part of our team who supports them too. Yeah.
So yeah, that's awesome. Like mine, I build like apps and portals and things of that nature. Uh, there's this sweet old lady that even older than I am that works for one of my customers, and technology is like foreign to her, but she calls the iPad that she runs her app on like her little friend, and she's like, "It's my favorite thing ever. I just love it," she said. And so, yeah, that's been so rewarding to be able to like they would spend hours like gathering, sending out paperwork, literal paperwork, getting it signed and checked off and getting it back. And then they would have to take it over to the copier and scan all of these through. And you know how like fun that is to like scan it all through. And then you got to open it up and see whose it is. And then you have to like save it to the right place or whatever and rename it. And this pretty much does all of that for them automatically. She hands them the iPad, the customer fills it out and they sign and give it back to her, and the file just goes where it's supposed to go automatically, and she just sits at her little receptionist desk and is so happy. And so yes, that has been the most rewarding part for me as well.
I think for me in my position, I get kind of a unique look at a lot of different companies and the like women that work in them. And it's really cool to see more women take on leadership positions, even from like 10 years ago when I started. In the, I think 8 years that I worked in paper mills, like I never had a woman that was on a like lead team or a female manager. So now I'm seeing a lot more women, and that just means that like the younger women like y'all who are starting will then like be able to look up to them and say like that's something that's possible for me. So I think just their like the gender gap is closing a little bit from my perspective, especially in the higher up positions, is really exciting to me because, for the women at, entry level positions to succeed, they really need to be able to see themselves, represented in those top positions. So that's a really cool trend I think that's going on.
1000%. Awesome. I do want to ask y'all before we get into questions from the young ladies who are on the call tonight. Looking back, 'cause I always like to ask this, we can reflect on what we didn't know, but what we know now. What advice would you have given your younger self when you were getting started pursuing a career in STEM? What would you have told your younger self?
I would have said, I remember walking onto a paper machine floor for the first time and just thinking, like, what have I gotten myself into? Like, I just didn't, men everywhere, all my dad's age, big guys from, that are hunters and fishers and stuff like that. And I had no idea how to build relationships with those people, like, no idea where to even start. And I think like one thing that I learned was sometimes you have to like pretend to be interested in the things that they're interested in to build relationships with them. Like ask them about hunting and fishing, ask them about their tractors and their farms and, Alabama football, like whatever it is that even if it's not something you're interested in, that will bridge the gap and fit and help you build relationships with them. That then when you are in a leadership position and potentially leading them, like that foundation is already there and the trust is already there, and it makes it so much smoother for you versus like if you don't have that foundation, it can be very difficult as a female to lead. And they will want to talk to you. I think that that's another misconception of like entering in a space with all men is like they won't want to talk to me. I'm nothing like them, but they have granddaughters that are your age. Like they have kids that are your age. Like they want to talk to this one female that has come onto the paper machines in the last 10 years. Like they're very interested. So yeah. And they're all, at least the like people that I worked with always had amazing men that were very supportive of me in my career. So I think a lot of women feel that way.
I would say like just go for it. Like don't be afraid to apply for that position that you might not think you're qualified for or that might be, out of state, but you think it would be the most fun job ever. Like just don't be afraid. Just jump all in and hit the ground running.
Mhm.
But
Yeah, I would say one thing is like keep in mind your values and your goals for your life when you're picking a career. So Marie just mentioned like, picking something out of state or doing like if you value being able to travel, like keep that in mind when you're picking a job, like whether you pick one that involves travel or not. And the reason I bring this up is because so like my one of my values was like being close to my family and like moving like I went to school in Miami, which is about 4 hours away from Orlando, which is where I'm from. And so I always wanted to move back home, but after college, I got a job down closer to Miami, so still like 3 hours away from home. And it was hard for me because I was far from my family. I didn't want to be there, and so, but I was at that job for 4 years because I didn't want to just like job hop. I was because one of my other values is loyalty and commitment. And so I was committed to sticking that job out unless something went wrong. Like there's nothing going wrong. I liked my team. I like it just wasn't where I wanted it to be. And so those two values that I had came into conflict because I wanted to be by family, but I also didn't want to leave my job. So for my next job, when it was time for me to leave, I picked my next job in Orlando so that I would be able to be near my family. And now I've been at that job for 8 years. And so just think it might make it easier on you if you think about that stuff in advance, just so that you can recognize and you can still make the choice. I'm still glad I took the job down closer to school. It all worked out, but like just think to yourself, like, what do I value? What am I looking for in my career? Because if you take, the first job that pops up that doesn't really align with those things, you might kind of put yourself in a difficult spot. And I loved what Hannah said earlier about like, yes, get the offer in hand, but then, keep looking for those other jobs. Maybe there's something better that you want to like compare and stuff. So anyway, just something to keep in mind.
yes. Okay, ladies, so if you would like to unmute your mic to the young women who are on our call and ask any questions, anybody can jump in. Does anyone have any questions? May I ask? I know that we already talked about, oh, we do have a question from Nina. How have your careers changed since you started?
I would say that in my current position, I've only been working there for like 3.5 years, but they my coworker and I started the job together, and so we were equals. And so I'm now the team lead for that team, and we have another team member. So I've changed to a leadership role in addition to just my development role. So that's changed for me.
Right.
I,
Go ahead, Hannah.
oh, I didn't know if this was like a career progression question, but after I took the job with the company that I co-opted with, and I started as a basically like a shift supervisor where I've had a team of like 25, of course, men. And I worked Southern swing shifts. So it was like rotating shift work. And then in manufacturing, often you move up really, really fast because turnover is really high in those kind of like high-paced environments where you're working all the time. So I moved to like an environmental position. I switched companies and then did an assistant department manager and then department manager. And that was in like a 7-year span. So, and the last job I had was like, I had a department of 118 men and 2 women. And that was like my dream job goal. And then I got pregnant like 2 weeks later. So it was kind of like, of course, and my husband worked in the industry as well. So it was like, we can't both do this. So that's when I took time off to get my master's. But yeah, in some industry, or at least I can speak for manufacturing, you will get thrown into the fire as far as like, you don't think you're capable of doing the jobs that they're asking you to do, and you just figure it out. Like kind of what Marie said, just go for it. Like, you will question whether or not you can, but you can every single time and you make it happen. So
I love that. Yeah, for me, there's been a few changes. So when I started at my first job, which was at Citrix in Fort Lauderdale, I was I was doing like process improvement, mainly focused on, and I will try not to get too like detailed, but like um I was using Excel, and like the programming language that you can use inside Excel is Visual Basic for Applications, VBA. So I was like, most of my job was doing automation with the things people were doing in Excel, and then some of it was with like another program called SAP. So when I was using that, I was spending most of my time like programming and automating things and doing that. And that was for, okay, so I said Citrix, so it's like a high tech company. So I was working at this high tech company that did have a high turnover too. In the high tech world, a lot of people switch jobs like every couple years. And so by the time I left, when I'd been there for 4 years, I was the person on my team who had been there the longest. So I was the most senior person on my team. At one point, I did like start like super I was the supervisor on my team, and I started managing people, but actually just for me, and just so you know, just FYI, this is the thing. Not everybody like wants to be a manager. Like, you don't have to, you can progress in your career without managing people if that's not something that interests you. And so for me, I'm not interested in managing people because I really like doing the actual like coding and automation and stuff like that. Like, instead of spending my time telling other people what to do and having to be responsible for their activities, I just like, doing it for myself. And so I accepted the supervisor position for a little while, but then it really wasn't working out. They had kind of convinced me to take it because, like I said, I'd been there the longest. And I was like, I'm not really happy. And so I was able to take a step back down, to like just be on the team instead of leading the team. And so FYI, that's a thing you can do too. If you try something and you're like, I don't really like this, like, you have options. You don't have to stay in a position that you don't like. And you don't have to leave your company to do it. Like, you'll often find yourself working with managers and other people who are really supportive of your career and you as a person, and can help you with things like that. So anyway, so I was a supervisor and I stepped back down. And then that's soon after is when I got my new job. And I now work for HMH, which is an educational technology company. Maybe you have some of our products at school or something, but like, it's like learning materials. And so now I'm in a different industry. So I was in high tech before. Now I'm in education. Before, at 4 years, I was the most senior person on my team. Now I'm working with people who have been at my company for like 30 or 40 years. Like, I would like every day at the office when I was working in person, I would meet people who were there for decades. And so it was a really different environment. And there was a lot more longevity. And now I'm working with different technology. So now I'm working with SQL coding instead, and I still do some VBA, but like, now on this new job, I really learned a lot. Like I mentioned, you learn a lot on the job. I learned a new programming language. I'm applying that every day. I do database management, which I wasn't doing before. So anyway, that became really long, but all that to say, like, your career can change a lot. You can learn a lot on the job. You can take steps up, take steps back, and just, you again, keep in mind like where you want to go with your career, and you can have people help you get there.
Kimberly, whenever you said you learned a new coding, a new program language, you said, whenever
Hmm.
you didn't know it before, I'm assuming it was totally unfamiliar to you, or
Um,
you did know a little bit.
I did know a little bit. I got exposed to it at my job at Citrix, but I didn't really work in it every day. It was like maybe once a week I would do like a tiny easy thing. But then once I moved to HMH, it was like, oh no, you're working in this like every single day. You have to do more complex things. Like beforehand, it was like, oh, find certain records from a table, like filter, you're selecting from a table and you want to filter for these certain records, and that was it. Now it's like, okay, like find the records from this table and join it with this table and pivot it around and like, it's just a lot more detailed. And it's like, okay, you're looking at records that are already there, but oh, by the way, you're also responsible for putting the records into the database in the first place. So you have to work with IT to like ingest a file and use ETL processes, which is extract, transform, load, and like stick it in there in the right format. And so it's like, it's stuff that I wasn't responsible for at my previous job, even though I kind of knew about it. Like I knew the general concepts, but it just wasn't my job. It was somebody else's job. But I kind of moved into that even more technical role, which I enjoy. I like it now. But yeah, it did take a lot of learning, and a lot of that was just like on the job. You just kind of figure it out, and you have people teach you. And there's also courses online. So like some companies have like learning, like we have like something called LinkedIn Learning. I don't know if anybody's used that, but it's basically like it's basically like a bunch of YouTube videos that like people in the industry, different industries have made that teach you how to do things. And so people make videos like, oh, here's, SQL coding basics. And so like it'll walk you through. It's like taking like an online class, like with like how to do different things. And they have courses on everything. And so you can learn kind of the basics of like new things you need to know for your job using like tools like that, or like going on YouTube, stuff like that.
Awesome. I want to piggyback off of that. Ladies, if you have another question, go ahead and type it in while I ask my question. We're going to give it about another 10 minutes or so. So please go ahead and type in your question if there's something that you really want to know. But piggybacking off of that, I do want to ask, what are the resources? LinkedIn Learning, never heard of that. That sounds awesome. What are the current resources in today's STEM atmosphere that young women could latch on to? YouTube, or obviously besides, reaching out to a company and checking in on what they have available, but like where can these young ladies go to pique their interest or try to understand more? What would you suggest?
Oh man, yeah, YouTube. Shane Young, Shane's Cows, that's where I learned a lot. Like, yeah, I've
Yeah, it
been
is
out
their
of
theme.
coding,
Okay.
yeah, out of coding for like 25 years. And so like going into it, it's like, you know, yeah, what I learned on doesn't exist, exists, but not really, not really practically anymore. So yeah, I learned everything by reading online, joining LinkedIn, following people on Twitter, which is now X, and following YouTube channels of things that appealed to me and then like I subscribe to like a programming, like they have a lot of different things called Pragmatic Works, and it's a subscription, but they have a lot of free videos online too. And we do mostly Microsoft products, but we do like SQL, and I actually am using Citrix in with Epic, a medical, an EMR, a medical records thing.
That's
So that's
cool.
kind of cool to hear. So
I was gonna say a lot, depending on your major, like you'll have different organizations like AICHE was for chemical engineer, or yeah, chemical engineers, Society of Women Engineers. There are tons of different societies that you can kind of get involved with on campus that will provide a lot of those resources for you. You can go to their yearly conferences, which is also a great way to network with companies. Like find female engineers on like Instagram. There's a ton of like, astronauts who are an Instagram female astronauts and stuff like that. They're just fun to, you know, follow, and you can kind of look at the comments and all the other women are hyping them up. And that's just a cool like resource for me, is like looking at it just for motivation for younger engineers. And then ask your company once you eventually get there, who, you know, if they offer resources, as far as a lot of companies will have like career coaches and stuff that they will pay, you know, they have them on kind of retainer for your company, for you to use. And a lot of companies nowadays are, if they'll give you a professional development stipend every year, so like $3,000 or $5,000 for you to go use that however you want, which could be like courses you want to invest in, or a coach, or these like conferences or something like that. So, but sometimes they, you know, you don't even know about it until you ask. I've found that to be the case with some of my clients. So
Interesting. I'll add to I believe this is the website that my sister-in-law is using, who is moving from Marie. You said you used to be a math teacher, so she's a math teacher now, but wants to become like, she wants to go into coding and do more data science stuff. And she's using something called W3 Schools, and it's a site where, okay, great, got some support for that. Yeah, it's a site where correct me if I'm wrong, Marie. You can learn a variety of coding languages, and you can either, I think you can do the courses and just like learn stuff for free. But if you want to actually get a certification, you can pay to like do the official one and get certified. But anyway, so that's what she's doing right now. But you wouldn't like, I mean, you don't, if you just want to learn it, you don't have to pay for it if you don't need the certificate. And yeah, that's a way, even if you're trying to decide if you're interested in coding and you're not really sure, you can just try it out and see what you think. And if you're like, oh no, this isn't for me, you can go a different direction. So
And Marie,
Yeah.
that's code.org, or you
Code,
said
yeah,
W3?
code.org and W3.
oh yeah, I can pay. Oh, you got it, Marie.
Yeah,
Okay.
W3 schools. We use that for HTML a lot, W3 schools. So yeah.
Oh, Neato and code.org. Okay, very cool. One of our young ladies asked, what was your career goal when you were younger, and how has that changed over time?
Mine was, yeah, very, I, when I was in high school and I left for college and I wanted to be a badass programmer that, you know, was like working for Microsoft or something for like, you know, megabucks, and ended up going back to the family farm and ranch. And so I was there, you know, in eastern rural Montana. Like there's not many jobs at Microsoft there. So I needed something to do to like um, keep my mind active, I guess, instead of just all manual labor. So I started substitute teaching at a couple of the Class C schools, which are like 100-ish kids, K-12, like all 13 grades or like 100 kids. So like I would substitute teach like kindergarten one day and math or science the next, you know, couple of days or whatever. And one year one of the schools couldn't find a math teacher, and so they're like, Marie, would you like to come teach math for us? I'm like, I don't have a degree, but I did go back to school and get my math certificate. And so I taught math there for like 14 years before I got married and moved here to this side of the state. And so I taught middle school for 7 years, and that about killed me. So yeah, and now I'm back in coding after middle school just about did me in. So that's where I'm at.
The middle schoolers,
The middle schoolers are like,
my mom's a middle school ninth grade or middle school science teacher, so she would agree with you. I'm sure y'all could swap
could
some stories.
sympathize. Yeah.
Yeah. I always in high school wanted to be on Food Network one day, so that had nothing to do with engineering, but then like, you know, reality sunk in a little bit and my parents were like, you're going to college. So then like I said, I just wanted to make as much money as I could, and that was my only goal until I really got in the industry. And then I always just wanted to keep managing people and moving up. So that was always kind of my goal. And then when I got pregnant, all that changed, you know, my priorities changed. It all shifted for me. And I wanted to spend as much time with my daughter as I could while she was home. So now, speaking to like kind of what Kimberly said, like your values and everything, like it was very important to me to have a flexible schedule while she's little. And so kind of the opportunity presented itself for me to start my own business, and now I get to do that. So yeah.
That's awesome, Hannah. Yeah, I guess I can take this a couple different ways. One is kind of what Hannah was saying, back when I was in high school, towards the end when I was thinking about what to do, I was like, "Oh, you know what? I want to be a photographer. Like I think that would be cool." And my dad was like, "No, you need to do something that you'll make money at." And so I was like, "Fine, I'll be an engineer." Um, yeah, and I almost took some photo because so one thing about college, I don't know, maybe you already know this. Like you can take like electives and stuff in college that aren't just towards your major. So I was gonna take photography classes in college, even though I was majoring in industrial engineering. And the only reason I didn't is because they were at 8 a.m. and I'm not a morning person. And so I was like, you know what? I can't. And so I just never did. I still take pictures for fun. But okay, so that's one way that like my, career goals have changed. But then also like going back, yeah, going back to the values thing. When I was at my first job, and I was away from family, and I was in a city where like I didn't really have that many friends. I would work, I would work late. I didn't mind like sticking around if something needed to get done. So I worked a lot of extra hours. If there was some sort of like sometimes like your company might need you to stay late for like quarter end or month end or something like that, where like they have like certain times of the year where they're busy or they're trying to like do a special process. Anyway, so I would like sign up to like work late for those because it's like I didn't care. I didn't have any friends to go hang out with. I wasn't doing anything. And so I worked a lot in those 4 years. But then when I was moving back home to Orlando, I decided, you know what? I don't want to do that anymore. I really value um the work life balance. I want to separate um the time that I'm at my job and then the time that now I'm free to spend time with my childhood friends and my nieces and my family. And so my goal changed from, like I might as well spend time at work. At least I can hang out with my coworkers to, you know what, I need more balance in my life. And so when I was applying for the job that I have now, during my interview, I asked about those things. I said like, "Hey, like do you have certain times of year like quarter end or things like that where I'll need to, work until midnight or like do you guys like do I need to work weekends? Like what's like give me an idea of what you expect." And I said, because you know what, honestly, like at this point, that's not what I'm looking for. And so because my boss, then it was the person I was interviewing with, but he became my boss. He assured me like, no, like, sometimes yeah, sometimes it'll be busier, but like, we don't have anything like that where you have to work nights, work weekends, or things like that. And I said, okay, that works for me. And I will say too, like it's important if that's important to you. It doesn't have to be. You can if you want to do nights, weekends, whatever. But like for me, it's important to me now. And I'm the one who has to set that boundary because there are other people that I work with who do work nights and do work weekends because there'll be a deadline coming up and they'll put pressure on themselves or maybe other people put pressure on them like, "Hey, you really need to get this done." And instead of saying, "Actually, there's not enough time to get that done. We need to push the deadline." Or, "I can only get this much of the project done by the deadline and then I can get the rest done afterwards." Instead, they'll just really push themselves. They'll work the nights, they'll work the weekends. But for me, I set the boundary and I say, "Hey, you know what? That's too big of a scope for the project. That's not realistic. We need more people." Things like that. And I set a precedence that if you ask me to work a night or work a weekend when it's not some sort of like emergency or like whatever, if it's just normal workload is just too high, and I'm going to say, no, I'll get back to you tomorrow. I'll get back to you on Monday, whatever it is. And if you enforce that boundary in your own life, other people will respect it and they won't expect you to do those things that are outside of your priorities.
Mhm. Absolutely. Gosh, good nuggets of information. That's awesome. I haven't seen another question pop up, and we are closing in on time. Hannah, you mentioned it a couple times that your parents were like, you need to get somewhere that makes you money. You need to get into a career that makes you money. And, I don't know if that was just, people say, and this is my background, parents who come from little money push their children to make lots of money kind of thing, or it's just a general rule for parents all over. But I do want to add on to all these awesome nuggets that that was a principal in our house as well. And it's so funny that, photography and, wanted to do this because you wanted to make money. And I was very art focused in college, but my parents were drilling on me, you got to find something that makes money. And I don't even do what I went to school and I got a journalism mass communications degree in graphic design. But I was that kid at 6 a.m. heading down to the art lab and in the photography studio and in the art studio and all that. And so what I'm getting at is a key takeaway is yes, the STEM field seems like it has got high income potential. Please correct me if I am wrong. And I know that that is an amazing motivating factor when entering into this field, but more so, the STEM field needs incredible young women to fill it. And, I want you to make that money. And Nerdy Girl Success is all about, young women being a part of the boardroom and being at the board table and or even leading that board table. And we want women to change the world. And so that's what we're pushing towards. So money is a motivating factor, but your passion, I feel like, should take center. It should be what drives you and makes you most excited. And if it's coding, and if it's being up at 6 a.m. to take pictures of a sunset, and if it's being on a paper mill factory getting to know good old boys from Alabama, and if it's, hanging out in an office and leading a team and being the first female engineer at a company, then by golly, you do it. And you run into that passion with every fiber of your being, and you just be excited about it, because the joy that you bring to your career, what wakes you up in the morning and what keeps you going, what keeps you motivated, the balance that you create, the boundaries that you create are going to take you so far in life. So, stay true to who you are, I think is a big thing that I want to say, and do what makes you happy. You're going to have a lot of outside people that are going to come in and try to tell you what to do and where to go. But, just latch on to what brings you light and joy. So again, it was code.org that you ladies mentioned, and W3 Schools is great options, a YouTube, and I also want to say personally for Nerdy Girl Success, Miss Kimberly and Miss Marie are Flash mentors. They're a part of the Flash mentoring program. If that is, it seems foreign, Nerdy Girl Success offers Flash mentoring, which means you get to connect with these women one-on-one. How do you connect with them? You go to the Nerdy Girl Success website. Under the teens section, there's a drop down. The first drop down, it says Flash mentoring. And we have got women for an array of backgrounds on there. Women who are, solopreneurs, so entrepreneurs, they've created their own company. Women who are in finance background, healthcare, STEM, all sorts. They're directors of nursing, they're CEOs, they're, whatever it may be. There is just an array of amazing women that are on that. We also do offer job shadowing as well. If that's something that you're interested in. You have my email address. I've emailed you a couple times. Sorry about that. So please, email me. Let me know, hey, Lori, you mentioned something tonight, or hey, Lori, I really love the ladies that I spoke to or I listened to. I would love to get to know them a little bit more. Can you connect? And we can get that ball rolling. And this is for anybody who's watching us on YouTube as well. Nerdy Girl Success has got some amazing, say hello to the people. Nerdy Girl Success has got some amazing resources. Our website is a great place to start. And if you're ever looking to connect, we have a contact page as well. please connect with us. We definitely want to get you where you need to be successful in this great big world. So I'm going to end that there. You ladies are amazing. Thank y'all so much for being here. I never heard your 3-year-old, so she's quiet. Oh, she's sleeping. Oh, that's awesome. You ladies have a wonderful night. Thank you again, and I can't wait to see y'all in our next installment.